The New York Yankees finally add a major bat to their lineup, getting Cody Bellinger in a trade with the Chicago Cubs. Blue Jays making some headlines, that and more next here at The Upside. The long-awaited trade that sends Cody Bellinger to the New York Yankees has finally been completed. Bellinger will play center field next season for the New York Yankees. Absolutely great deal for the Yankees as they get their center fielder, which is allowing them to put Aaron Judge back in right field. Best thing for their franchise long-term was getting Aaron Judge out of center, and they have done so with the acquisition here of Cody Bellinger. He is a good stick in that lineup as well, is going to help with the loss of Juan Soto. Does this mean it completely makes up for it? No, but it's kind of a group approach now. They brought in Max Fried to help out with the rotation. They made the trade for Devin Williams. Devin Williams himself said he thought he was going to go to the Dodgers until the deal was finally announced that he was going to go to the Yankees. Now they bring in Cody Bellinger, and they're not done. Specifically saying that he's going to be in center field next year tells me they're looking more at first baseman this offseason. We'll see what they ultimately have in store. Welcome in, everybody. Appreciate you guys joining us. Mark, John, Holly, appreciate you joining us once again. Holly, I think this is the first time I've seen you in there. If you guys want to say hello, hit that like and subscribe. We really do appreciate it. Hayden, let's see here. Let's go. Yankees got Bellinger. Absolutely, John. Yankees got Bellinger. Exactly. That's the left-handed stick they really needed, but they're not done yet. John, as you say there, are the Yankees done now? No, they still have more work to do. One bat does not make up for the loss of Juan Soto all by himself. Sure, they've done better as far as an overall team, but they still have more work to do in that lineup. We saw how that team looked with Aaron Judge by himself in that lineup when there really wasn't protection in the middle of the season for periods of time. There really was below average players in that lineup. That's why they went out there and made the trade for Jazz Chisholm. Well, it's not just Jazz Chisholm that is going to be in that lineup. You still have more holes to really fill out there. Dominguez being healthy this coming season is really going to help them as well, and being, I think, on the active roster all season long rather than in the minor leagues is really going to help them as well. I love the team. I think they're in a really great spot right now with their rotation, but they have to address that lineup a little bit more. I still think they're in there on Bregman. I still think they're in there on Walker, as well as other possibilities, including Pete Alonso. Now, Alonso still is the favorite to go to the Mets. I would be shocked if he goes anywhere else. But the Yankees are at least asking around, seeing what it might look like, what the numbers might look like. How does he fit in with the Yankees? Does he even want to go to the Yankees? All those kinds of questions are still being answered, so we'll see what ultimately happens. But I really like the acquisition here for the Yankees. Now, what does Bellinger bring them? A pretty good center fielder. One of the better hitting options there that they could put out there in center field. Really like the addition. The one issue that we saw all along with the acquisition of Bellinger was, are the Yankees going to have to eat the full contract of Bellinger? They were trying to save a little bit of money. Ultimately, the trade looks like Poteet going to the Cubs, while $5 million essentially goes from the Cubs to the Yankees to kind of offset a little bit of his salary. But come on, I mean, that's a huge contract for the Yankees to take on. Ultimately, it only cost them one prospect. Yankees were able to get it done, so I really like the deal from the New York aspect of it. I mean, it's money. It's only money, they say, but they are one of the mega teams in the sport. If they can't afford it, Mets, Dodgers, there's a few other teams that could. I don't want to hear the Yankees cry poor anymore. I mean, we heard them say so about Juan Soto, and yet they were at $760 million in their bidding for him. I don't want to hear Yankees fans and Yankees ownership and Yankees front office saying, well, we can't compete with the Dodgers in their pocketbooks. You're the Yankees. You're printing money there. Understandably, maybe you don't have the deepest pockets in the world like Steve Cohen or the Dodgers, but you can still compete on any level for any free agent that you want to go for. Just look at the offer you made for Juan Soto. And you already have Aaron Judge on your roster, as well as other top-level deals, Garrett Cole and others on your roster. Don't cry poor to me, Yankees. I love the acquisition here, though, of Bellinger, but there's more work to do. They need to bring in some type of infielder, whether that be a third baseman in Bregman, and then go with a platoon option at first base with Rice, or if they bring in Christian Walker and then decide what they want to do with Rice after that. They still need to make some additions there. We'll see which direction they go. Hayden, any news on Burnes? It sounds like more and more trepidation when it comes to his free agency. If you had told me over the weekend that Burnes was going to sign by Monday or Tuesday, I would have said it probably would go to the Giants. More and more likely that he's going to go to the Giants. The longer this takes, or the longer this free agency takes for Burnes, it tells me other teams might ultimately pry him away. I think the Giants are where he would prefer to play. At least that's what it seems like from all reports. But I would not be surprised if he ultimately goes to Toronto at this point, or Boston, or if he even goes back to Baltimore. I don't think Baltimore has the stomach for that kind of money. Some of the reporting that I've seen over the last 24 hours kind of detailing their pursuit of Corbin Burnes is that they made the trade last year for Corbin Burnes basically as 1 year, not really investing in him long term. To me, that's a cardinal sin, a huge red flag for Elias and that front office group. I mean, I almost said front office group, but I mean, you can kind of see how I see that. You've got one of the greatest pitchers in the league right now, a Cy Young caliber starting pitcher, and your options to replace him are the trade market because you don't want to spend $30+ million on a long-term deal. At a certain point, I get it. You don't want to have too many financial constraints on this roster once the team really takes off, and you have to pay Henderson, you have to pay Holiday and others. But you have to get there first, my friend. These contracts that they would be signing, they'd be able to afford them right now because all those other guys are signed for dirt cheap. Why aren't we investing right now if I'm the Orioles? So to answer your question, any news on Burnes, it sounds like the more this kind of lingers on, the Giants are becoming less of a favorite and it becomes anybody's race at this point. We saw, a couple of years ago when Nathan Eovaldi was twisting in the wind, Rangers really stuck to it and said, pretty much the entire time, we're interested in you, Nathan Eovaldi. We're interested. We're still there. We're still there. We're still there. They go to ownership. They find more money in the budget, and they get him. He was probably one of the biggest reasons they won the World Series. Now, I'm not saying that's going to happen once again for Texas, but teams like that see an opportunity on the market, may very well capitalize on it and bring in Corbin Burnes. Welcome back, Sean. What's next for the Cubs? Well, they just saved a boatload of money on Bellinger. I would expect them to try to get the deal done for Jesus Luzardo. That seems to be their biggest move that they're trying to get done right now. And then we'll see what they want to do. If they want to split up the money a little bit, bring in somebody to play third base until Shaw is ready. If they want to move on from Horner and put Shaw over there at second. But Shaw will be on the big league club at some point next year. Mark my words. I think they'd prefer to move on from Suzuki, but that contract, I don't think anybody's taking it right now. Pardon me. Hayden, even those people who expect Roki to go to the Dodgers, that doesn't mean anything. People thought Max Fried was going to the West, but he didn't. Actually, I never thought he was going to go to the West. I thought he was going to go to the Red Sox all along. I thought he was the Red Sox top option. I thought he was going to the AL East. I thought he was going to go there or possibly Toronto. Dodgers, I think once they signed Blake Snell, that was pretty much it for them, unless they were going to bring in Sasaki, a Kershaw, a Scherzer, somebody like that. So they weren't going to spend big money on a frontline starting pitcher for their number 5 spot in their rotation. Now, if Burnes twists in the wind a little longer, they may rethink that position, but I never really considered Fried going out to the West Coast. I still thought the AL East was where he was going to go. Yankees got the job done for that one, but as far as Sasaki goes, I would agree there. I don't think it's necessarily, one team being a 100% favorite to get him right now. I still think the Dodgers are the prohibitive favorite. Don't get me wrong. I'd put him at probably at 80% right now. But he's still going to take meetings with a bunch of other teams. I'd say there's 4 other teams that are legitimate threats to sign him. I've gone over these quite a bit over the last few weeks anyway. Those being the Texas Rangers, San Diego Padres, San Francisco Giants, and the Seattle Mariners. The next basket of the Cubs, Mets, and Yankees are even further down the totem pole, but I still think the overwhelming favorite has to be the Dodgers. We'll see what happens with his candidacy, but again, it's going to take a while. Have to wait for the meetings to take place, and then again, he can't sign his deal until the 15th of January if he wants top dollar. Holly, what's next for the Rangers? Appreciate the question. If you guys are new here, please feel free to hit that like and subscribe. But as Holly asked, what's next for the Rangers? Bullpen right now. If they're in the market for Burnes, maybe that's what they're really trying to do behind the scenes. But bullpen seems to be their top priority, according to Jeff Wilson of the DLLS Rangers podcast. We'll see what they do, but for me, I think they're going more for a Kirby Yates, Tanner Scott type of closer. They want a high leverage guy, a big impact arm in that 9th inning role. I think they would still like to go a little bit cheaper in the 8th inning, say a $4.5 million guy. I don't think we'll see Robertson back in a Rangers uniform, unfortunately, even though he was really good in the Rangers uniform in the 7th or 8th inning, sometimes in the 9th. They really deployed him in really high leverage situations, and he pulled through several times last year for the Rangers. That bullpen in Texas wasn't exactly great, but Kirby Yates and David Robinson really propped up the numbers for them to make them look as respectable as they did. Outside of that, they had a bunch of hit and misses last year in that bullpen. Urena had a good year for them. Leclerc was up and down. Spores was never really healthy. And then outside of that, they had a couple of good months from Jacob Latz, and then the air came out of the balloon. We'll see what they do as far as patching this bullpen up. They've already made an addition with Jacob Webb. I think they could be coming close to a deal with A.J. Minter. Heard a couple other teams are in his market, though. I wonder if that might be steering the Rangers away from him over the last couple of days because they're trying to keep the costs down in that bullpen. But we'll see which direction they go. John, will the Yankees sign any more players this week? I do believe they will. I think they've got their trade done now with Bellinger. Now they can try to get Walker across the finish line if they really want Walker. Maybe they push a little harder for Alonso now that they've solved their center field issue and know that they already have a backup option at first base if it doesn't come through. As far as a third baseman, I still think Bregman would be the perfect bat in that lineup now. And now that you addressed the left-handed hitting option in that lineup as well, to kind of keep yourself a little bit more balanced, bringing in a right-handed hitter like Bregman or Walker wouldn't really hurt you too much from a righty-lefty standpoint. Now, I understand teams can get a little bit right-handed, teams can get a little bit left-handed from time to time, but it doesn't necessarily impact their winning. But for me, just having the right-left combinations in your lineup just make it a lot harder for teams to bullpen against you, rather than loading up on, say, left-handers against you on a certain day. Now they're going to have to play a little bit more of a chess match with you, and from a strategic standpoint, it just works better if you're a little bit more balanced. Are the Yankees going to get Walker and Bregman? Honestly, that would be the trump card right now for the Yankees. Hey, we lost Soto, but we got one of the top 2 or 3 starters on the market. We got probably the best trade option as far as a closer. They still may get Tanner Scott. You get one of the top 2 first basemen on the market in Walker. You trade for one of the best center, if not the best, center fielder on the market in the trade market in Cody Bellinger. And then you add the best third baseman in the game, or in the free agent market as well, in Alex Bregman. That'd be a really good offseason for the Yankees, even after losing Juan Soto. So if they're able to do it, that'd be an incredible kind of a trump card for them. David, I think if you get Goldschmidt and put Bellinger ahead of Judge and Goldie behind both, their numbers should go up. I think Bellinger would be great in a Yankee uniform if they want to do a platoon thing at first base. I don't think Goldschmidt would be the guy 162 games over there. I think they'd split it up a little bit between Rice and Goldie. Goldie had a down year last year with the Cardinals. I imagine he still wants to show that he's still got something left in the tank. Maybe he wants to be in contention. If he does prioritize a competitive team over, playing time, maybe he goes to the Yankees. I think the Giants, though, have an offer already on the table for him to be their everyday first baseman. We'll see what they do. Good question there, Mark. Anyway, Blue Jays news. I have a bad feeling they'll tear it all down at the trade deadline. I'm kind of leaning towards that myself. But the news from Toronto, anyway, is Nick Pivetta, a Canadian-born player, could be heading his way to Toronto, which tells me that even Toronto realizes that they're kind of also ran in the Corbin Burnes sweepstakes. Now, they could still get him, don't get me wrong, but I wonder with a Canadian-born player if they have a little bit more influence over a Pivetta coming there and maybe getting him to a long-term deal rather than what I was expecting Pivetta to get this offseason in a one-year deal to kind of rehab his value, show he's healthy, and then hit free agency next year. They might be able to convince Pivetta to sign for, say, a 3-year contract, give them some more stability in that starting rotation, especially as they try to approach other free agents this offseason. Because right now, if I'm a free agent looking at Toronto, I see a desperate team. I see a team with their 2 top stars on the team, free agents in a year, and I'm not sure if they're going to be there. I'm not sure if the front office who's signing my contract is going to be there. I'm not sure the guy that's managing the team is going to be there next year. So, if I'm Alex Bregman, they might be a perfect fit for me. I may be a perfect fit at third base. And even if things blow up and I'm flexed over to shortstop and be a perfect fit for the Blue Jays, I'm not sure it would be a perfect fit for Alex Bregman. So if I'm Bregman and I want to be competitive in a any market I go into, remember he entered Major League Baseball playing for the Houston Astros, and immediately he was going to the pennant year after year after year after year. He has known nothing but playoff baseball since he's come into the league. Is he really willing to take a team who might miss a playoff run and take that rebuilding phase with the Blue Jays and just take it for money? Or is he willing to go to another team for a little bit less than what he might get from the Blue Jays? I think the Blue Jays are probably the high bidder on a lot of guys out there right now, and nobody has said yes. This has a lot of shades of the San Francisco Giants to me, and like you say, Mark, I do worry about them tearing it all down at the deadline, their front office being gone right after the deadline, and them hiring somebody new right after the season. Then you have a whole new form of Toronto baseball coming to you, but it's going to be a long rebuild process if they go that route. There's so much instability right now. We're reading the same thoughts here, Mark. There's so much instability in Toronto that I just don't see a case for why top-level free agents may go there. Now, if you miss out, you still want to get paid in free agency, maybe you go to Toronto and just take the paycheck. Santander might be that guy that goes there, but I really worry about their ability to field a competitive team next year from the standpoint of winning a playoff series, which is their stated goal. I just don't really see it being very reachable as a goal. Before the offseason, I would have said maybe, because I would believed in the players that were there. I believe in that front office, but the trade for Jimenez looks ugly. You got Vladdy on a one-year deal. You got Bichette on a one-year deal. You're telling me a trade that looks bad already is the reason why I should go there and why you have stability now? Gosman, George Springer, Vlad Guerrero Jr. is the heartbeat of that team, along with Bo Bichette, and both of those guys might be gone at the trade deadline because Toronto sees them gone after in off season, and so they want to get something back for them. You might not even get a full season with those two on your same team. So a lot of instability there in Toronto. We'll see where they ultimately go. Alrighty, Hayden, my problem with Bregman and Walker is they have qualifying offers, so I might not want the Yankees to go after them so they can go after Roki. Every team is going to go after Roki. I don't think one is independent of the other, or one is dependent on the other, excuse me. I think Roki is completely his own separate thing. But as far as Bregman and Walker having qualifying offers, I get it. You don't want to lose the picks, etc. But it's not like the compensation was, say, a couple years ago before the new CBA. It's still not nearly as cumbersome as it was before. Look at the Texas Rangers and what they did, bringing in Seager and Simeon and DeGrom and all these other guys they brought in that had qualifying offers attached to them. They said the heck with it, and now their number one prospect is a guy they drafted, even in a year where they were handicapped by the qualifying offer issue. So, don't tell me qualifying offers are the reason why they shouldn't get a high-level player like this. Their championship window is right now with Aaron Judge. You wait, say, another 3-4 years, you're going to have an albatross of a contract and Aaron Judge on your roster. I don't think Judge is going to be the type of player that ages particularly well. I think his bat will still play up, but his defense at some point is going to start to lag off. As good of a player as he is, as dynamic as he is, being able to play center field right now, in 4 or 5 years, you're not going to have the same team. And so that guy that you're going to draft with that pick that you're worried about losing for that qualifying offer might finally be reaching the big leagues by that time. Are we really saying we're going to compromise the future of the Yankees right now and not sign Bregman because we're worried about a guy who might be on the roster in 5 years from now or who we might trade for another piece? The time to win is now. It's all about money right now, and sure, you might have a compensation pick taken from you. So be it. Bregman would be worth 3, 4, 5 of those if he signs on your team. So, I would still get the job done with Bregman. Walker would be a little bit more of a question mark, mainly because he's only going to be on your roster for, 3-4 years? He's 34 right now. He would really be a great upgrade for them at first base. And if you're trying to win a World Series, this is what we're talking about with the Yankees. They don't compete for division titles. They don't compete for a wild card spot. This is supposed to be a team of champions, and if we're talking about a team trying to, wrestle with their future in 5 years versus competing with the World Series right now with the team they've built up, that's a question that the Yankees, really haven't had in their history. They've always put the pedal down. They've always made it work. So even though I get your point with the qualifying offer, you lose the pick, etc., the Yankees have never operated that way, and I don't think they should start now. David, I honestly think players waiting for Soto kind of hurt free agency. The prices are a little too high right now. Sure, yes, but I also think the prices were high already when you look at Severino's deal with the A's, you look at Kikuchi's deal with the Angels. Those are two teams that are going to be rebuilding ball clubs next year. Sure, the A's have done some nice work bringing in another starting pitcher via trade in Jeffrey Springs, and now, according to reports, are connected to the Philadelphia Phillies for Alec Boehm as well. No idea what they would be getting or giving back to the Phillies to make them competitive, but maybe Mason Miller as a closer might be the compensation for Alec Boehm. But for me, teams that were not expecting to sign top level free agents are spending $20+ million on a mid-level rotation starter to be their ace coming in. So money is abundant in the game right now, and I get your point that while Soto did jack up the prices quite a bit, sticker shock, 15 years, $765 million, could be 805 by the time it's all said and done. I don't think that really affected it quite as much as the deals for Severino and Kikuchi. Those teams took players off the board that, say, some of these teams that are looking for wild card spots next year, or say like the Chicago Cubs who are trying to compete and are all in for 2025, now have to go to the top of the market in free agency if they really want to bring an impact starter into their midst. But that's why we see the Cubs now pivoting, because the prices are so high for Jesus Luzardo. Make sure you guys hit that like and subscribe. Say hello. Tell us where you're watching from. We do really appreciate you guys joining us. Got about 75 of you guys with us right now. Thank you guys for joining us. John, are the Yankees going to sign a first baseman? I would say yes. Whether it be a platoon option like Goldschmidt or a Walker or Alonso option, I think they're going to add a first baseman of significance at some point this offseason. I think their first move, though, should be to go to Alex Bregman. That would be the piece I would want right now if I'm in that Yankees front office. I think you bring in Bellinger, you bring in Bregman, even if you miss on Walker, you miss on Alonso. You have to go back to, say, a Nathaniel Lowe trade with Texas, for instance, or a Yandy Diaz from the Rays, or Goldschmidt, or even bringing back Rizzo. Any one of those options would still look better in the light of the fact that you brought in Fried, Williams, Bellinger, and now Bregman. Now first base, you just kind of make it work with a platoon over there, so be it. But, those two pieces right there on the offensive side really kind of lengthen that lineup out quite a bit. They really need to get a little bit deeper in that lineup, and by adding two significant bats with Bellinger and Bregman, not to mention what else they might do this offseason, would really kind of lengthen out that lineup quite a bit. I would love to see that for the Yankees. Hayden, I agree with you. I really want Bregman. I like Walker for his defense, but I prefer Alonso. I like Alonso. I like Walker. I'd rather have Walker because he's cheaper. I get the qualifying offer argument, but I'd still rather sign Walker. 3 years, say $65 to $80 million, I'd be willing to go to on Walker. The defense would really play up, and when you get a ground ball pitcher like Fried in there, I think having a great infield defense is going to be paramount. Bringing in Bregman would be another reason why I would do that deal. Not just for the stability in that lineup for Bregman. I think he's an impact right-handed bat that you can easily deploy, say second, third, fourth, fifth in that lineup at anywhere, in that group. I think you bring in Bellinger, kind of splitting up the righties in that lineup. Lefties always hit well there in Yankee Stadium. Again, short right field porch. Maybe you go out there and go in free agency or into the trade market. Nathaniel Lowe, I think, would see his power numbers really skyrocket there with the Yankees. The one problem with Nathaniel Lowe and his power is, he puts on a show in batting practice. But the thing is, he's not very aggressive once he gets in the batter's box. And if the Yankees, were a team that would be able to trade for him, say the Rangers somehow ended up with Corbin Burnes, and they had to offload some money. Nathaniel Lowe, John Gray could be one of those guys out. If the Yankees were able to bring in Nathaniel Lowe and teach him to be a little bit more aggressive at the plate, his power really would translate onto the field. And I would love to see it. Love Nathaniel Lowe as a guy. Absolute incredible human being. And I think it'd be great for the New York Yankees, and a very cost-effective contract as well. Signed for around $11 million, I think, is what his arbitration number is expected to be this year, and then one more year after this. You're saving a little bit of money on a deal where you don't have to spend or where you're already spending money on Bellinger. You save a little bit because you're not spending $20+ million at first base on Walker or Alonso. You're bringing in Nathaniel Lowe for round 11, so that'd be a good cost savings, a way for them to kind of recoup a little bit because of how much they're spending on Bellinger. But for defense, I do like Bregman quite a bit on the left side of the infield. They'd have a really good defensive infield with Volpe and Bregman on that left side. Mark, Ontario here, representing. Appreciate you. Let us know in the chat where you're watching from. Hayden, for this offseason, what grade would you give the Yankees so far? You'd say a B+. I'd give it a B. I still think they're a work in progress. I love the acquisitions that they've made. I still think they're a work in progress, though. They're not done yet. I still think they're going to add one more impact bat and then another bat of less importance. And then I think they're going to add another eighth-inning guy. So we'll see what they do to kind of wrap up this team. But they're almost done with their shopping, but a few more big-ticket items that they still have to figure out before I give them any higher than a B at the moment. David, Yankees will probably sign Santana on the cheap. Possibly. I think if 1 year, $4 million contract would be in the offing, Twins are looking to possibly bring him back as well. David, the apple of the Yankees' eye is really Brendan Donovan. I mean, he's a pretty decent player. John, are the Yankees in on Alonso? Good question there. For those of you guys just joining us, we did get the Cody Bellinger deal, sending him from the Chicago Cubs, along with $5 million to the Yankees in exchange for Poteet. Good deal for both teams. Cubs only have to retain $5 million. Meanwhile, the Yankees get the guy they've really been targeting for center field to get Judge out of center. Love the acquisition himself. Now, for the Cubs, this offloads a little bit of salary for them to, one, bring in Jesus Luzardo, and then still add to their lineup, which is going to be their goal after they get that trade done for Luzardo, which I would expect at some point before the end of the week. As far as the Alonso market there for the Yankees, I do believe they're at least discussing it. Heard multiple reports of them discussing it amongst themselves, not necessarily having too many negotiations with Alonso's camp. I'm sure they've reached out since the beginning of the offseason process, registering their interest, but I'm not sure how ready they are to pull the trigger on that one. I mean, you look at Alonso, his biggest feature is the bat. You have a lot of one-dimensional players who have been all slug before, and I think he's probably going to end up with the Mets anyway. Sure, you might want to steal him away, but at a certain point, are you just stealing him away so the Mets can't have him, or does he help out your roster? I think you'd hamstring that roster a little bit, because I think you're probably looking 6 for 180, and I think Vlad Guerrero Jr. is really the guy they're hoping to get next year. I still think maybe a shorter-term deal could be in the offing here, or maybe even a platoon situation. I think the best fit for them right now in free agency is Alex Bregman. Jose Lito, welcome in. First time I've seen you in our chat. Make sure you drop a like and subscribe if you have not already. If you're joining us for the first time, make sure you follow us over on X at UpsideSN and on Facebook, Upside Sports Network. Bregman turned down 6 for 156. Yankees could easily offer 7 for 190. Keep the AAV around 27. Thoughts? I like the deal, but I think the Yankees like the deal. I think Bregman is looking clearly in the $200 million range right now. Maybe he takes a little bit of a discount. I think he's going to beat Adames for sure. That's his stated goal, at least according to his agent. 7 years, 182, in case you guys are trying to remember what those numbers were. Very similar players, but I always thought Bregman was the better piece between the two. Higher ceiling, and which one has been in every single postseason his entire career? That's Alex Bregman. So he's going to do very well in free agency. I'm still expecting 7 for 210 somewhere or more, but we'll see where he goes. Maybe a team wants to lower the average annual value by signing him to an 8-year deal like they did with Max Fried, but we'll see where it goes. Yankees are talking to Alonso, but I don't think they have a qualifying offer attached to him. I don't think any team really likes having to lose a pick, and I get the hesitation there, but I think there are other options that fit better for the Yankees than Alonso. Hayden, Joselito, I like that, and I think Bregman takes the deal. He might. If that's his best deal on the table right now, if he wants to be in a competitive environment, say the Blue Jays are offering, say, 7 at 220. Would you rather play for the Toronto Blue Jays for the next 7 years for $220 million, or would you rather play for the New York Yankees for 7 for 190? If I'm Bregman, I've only known the playoffs, I'd probably take the security of the Yankees and just live with it, knowing that the Yankees might give me better long-term success after that 7-year deal. Playoff success really matters to a guy like Bregman, I do believe. And I think Toronto, while he'd be an epic fit on that team, I'm just not sure how likely that would be. If you guys are just joining us, make sure you guys hit that like and subscribe. The other bit of news that we saw today, besides the Bellinger trade to the Yankees, was the Toronto Blue Jays registering their interest in bringing in Nick Pivetta. Tells me that the Corbin Burnes market for the Blue Jays might be cooling just a little bit. Canadian-born player there, Nick Pivetta, and maybe this would be a good way for them to show some stability in the offseason by offering him, say, a 3-year deal, showing other free agents that, hey, it's not just all about 2025 and trying to win a postseason series. We're signing guys for after Vlad Guerrero Jr. hits free agency. This is a team where you can still be competitive because we're bringing in talent in addition to Nick Pivetta. Say an Anthony Santander goes there because of the money. Now you've got, say, a Pivetta and a Santander. If Bregman's still on the market, now he can see a future for that team a little bit more than what he sees it right now. I mean, you're looking at your top 2 players on that roster leaving. Not to say that they still might not leave in free agency, but you can still see a pathway to contending for at least a wild card spot if you're Bregman by making those additions with Pivetta and Santander. So maybe the Blue Jays' best course of action, instead of waiting on these top guys to sign, is try to sign some of these lower end players and see what they could do, to kind of try to impress other free agents to sign with the Blue Jays. Would Pivetta be a third in the rotation, fourth? Good question. I would probably put him third in that rotation. I think he has the stuff to be a number two. I think with his track record over the last year or so, he might start out as the fourth, but I think over the course of 162, he probably ends up as the number three in that rotation, with upside of more. But I would pick him as third in that rotation. Then, of course, after this year, maybe he ends up being the number two, depending on how, the rest of that rotation sorts itself out for 2026. But for the Blue Jays, I would say I'd put him in third in that rotation and just roll the ball out there and see how it goes. Alrighty, let's go ahead and check in over on Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it these days, and just see what else is happening around the wonderful world of sports. Let's go ahead and update our page here for you guys. Badu going with the Tigers after going unclaimed. Hoyer made a trade today with the crosstown rival White Sox, sending Max Stassi to the White Sox. That was one of the smaller deals that we did see. Sugano, of course, to the Orioles, we saw yesterday. Colton Brewer. Panik's deal, of course, in the NFL. Absolutely incredible the way Kirk Cousins has really fallen off. Let's see here, just scrolling down, seeing if anything else. Fried's deal became official, 8 for 218. Then, of course, the Bellinger deal. A couple of minor league deals. More rumors. Bellinger, Rangers prospects. Tristan Cassis doing some work in the offseason. Badu, and more Yankee stuff. All right. Let's go ahead and head over to MLB trade rumors, see if anything else is popping over there. Alrighty, let's check in on Teoscar Hernandez. I did see an article earlier today that Hernandez's market seems to be around $22 to $24 million in average annual value. Now, for the Dodgers, that's a very palatable contract, and I don't think the Dodgers were expecting it to be that cheap. You look at Conforto, the guy they did bring in, at 1 year, $17 million. His numbers away from Petco last year were significantly improved, and I think that's what they're seeing there from a left-handed hitter. Now with bringing in Teoscar Hernandez as the right-handed hitting complement there, would really lengthen out their lineup even further. We'll see, if the Dodgers pull the trigger on this one, or if Teoscar ultimately goes to the Red Sox or Blue Jays or Yankees. All those teams are still supposedly in there for Hernandez. I wonder with the trade of Bellinger and the announcement that they're going to put him out there in center field, if that cools the Yankees' pursuit there of Teoscar. Welcome back, St. Vintage. First time I've seen you tonight. David, who's Alonso? Let's see here. D-Rod, welcome in. People forget Cousins is coming off of a torn Achilles. He is, but I still expected better, especially over the last 3-4 weeks. He got off to a great start. I mean, he threw for over 500 yards in a game earlier this year, and he's just fallen off over the last couple of weeks. D-Rod, welcome in. Alrighty, we got about 75, 80 of you guys with us right now. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe if you haven't already. Really would appreciate that. We've gained over 165 subscribers since the start of the winter meetings. Absolutely great time covering baseball with you guys. I have the off day tomorrow, so I will be here doing 2 different lives tomorrow, probably one in the lunch hour for you guys, and I'll be live again in the evening wrapping you guys up on a bunch of different things. If we do get a Burnes signing or a Bregman signing, we will come live for you as well. Pete Alonso, I guess, will do that one as well. But those are some of the headlines we're keeping our eyes on right now. I did see a Lane Thomas thing here. David, I think Lane Thomas to the Yankees would work well. Lane Thomas at the beginning of the offseason was made available by the Guardians, but I think that was more for a bigger piece. They were looking to do something big this offseason, kind of like a Kyle Tucker kind of a move. That's why they said they were willing to do big things this offseason. A trade of Josh Naylor could have been in the offing, but with Tucker off the board, I don't think there's really a piece that the Guardians would value at that level. I don't think there's a trade out there that they would make that would be a piece that's all in for him. So, the Guardians, I don't think they're moving on from Thomas. I don't think they're moving on from Naylor. I think the only thing I see them really doing is kind of doing what they did with the Jimenez trade, offloading a little bit of salary, getting younger Horowitz, and then turning around and peddling Horowitz for pieces that could help them next year. So we'll see. D-Rod, Frida's signing bonus, $10 million each for the first 2 seasons, 12 on books only. I mean, that structure of that contract is different. We've seen a lot of different salary structures and deals right now. As you know, we saw the Dodgers do the deferrals last year, putting that really in vogue by signing Shohei Ohtani. This year, it's more about decreasing the front years of the contract and now backloading the deals. We saw that trend probably 5-10 years ago, and now teams are kind of going back to that instead of the deferrals so far this offseason. But we'll see where the money ultimately ends up with some of these other guys. We saw the Rangers backload a little bit of the Eovaldi deal. I wonder if teams bring in Burnes if they do something very similar. But things to kind of keep an eye on. All right, one thing I wanted to get into that we haven't touched on in our most recent lives is some of the trades that we've been seeing out there. In our videos, we keep kind of glossing over the Arenado argument, and once Bregman comes off the board, I think his candidacy for a trade becomes white hot. So I wanted to kind of pull that up for you guys and just go over some trades of what we could see. So one that I want to make anyway, that I keep seeing being made out there, is a trade between the Astros and the Cardinals. We'll go ahead and do that one first. All these dang pop-ups. All right. So Cardinals, of course, go over to salary here. Let's do that one first. That's probably the easiest way to get Arenado. There he is. 3 years left on his deal, $61 million. Okay, so there he is to the Astros. -16 value. Cardinals say they're not willing to take back some money. We'll see what that ultimately looks like. If the Astros, they don't have a whole lot of prospects to give up, but if you're taking back a negative asset, you're not exactly looking to give up some major impact pieces. So looking at what a trade for Arenado could look like, say the Cardinals include $15 million, basically a nothing value trade. You include a couple of lower level minor leaguers. Say Baez has some real steam as far among trades out there the last couple of years. We'll put him in the deal. Go to page 2 here. We'll throw in a 19-year-old starter in Brito. And then the Cardinals can throw in some cash. We'll say $15 million. Might need to switch that around to the other side here. Yeah. Let me flip that around real quick. Over back the other way. 15 to the Astros. There's the cash added. And there's the trade. You're getting a replacement level player, a little bit better glove work at third base with Arenado. You put Paredes over there at first base. You spend the money and bring in Santander for your outfield. You roll with that group going forward. That would be a trade I could see going for the Houston Astros. What do you guys think as far as a trade for Arenado? Where do you guys think he goes? I think the Yankees, if they miss on Bregman, could pivot to Arenado. And once again, there would be the stalemate between the Cardinals and Yankees as to whether or not the Cardinals would retain some salary. I think they'll retain a little bit of salary if it means getting back some significant pieces in return. They're going to offload him somewhere. It's just a matter of where. Alrighty, what do you think the Yankees' next move is, and who do you think it will be? I think it's going to be for a hitter. Another hitter, whether it be Bregman, I think that's who it should be for. D-Rod, Scherzer's the best case. Deferred contract thus far worked out well for the Nationals. It did. Let's see here. St. Vincent is Acuna and McNeil for Castillo fair? Heck no. I mean, I'm not trading Acuna at all if I'm the Mets. I would not touch him with a 10-foot pole. I think he has a real future at the major league level. I mean, you look at his numbers in winter ball. I can't remember where he's playing right now, but he has like a 300 average, 18 stolen bases in 18 attempts or something like that, like 18 RBIs, all kinds of crazy numbers. He's really, looked like a professional player right now, and I think he could be on the big league club here, and say by the end of the season, maybe beginning of next year, but not too much longer after that. He looks like a difference maker type of a player, and speed is really the name of the game with him. I mean, he's getting on base at a significantly higher clip than he was early on in his career with the Texas Rangers. The trade that brought Max Scherzer over from the Mets was all for that deal, or the reason why the Mets ate so much money on the Scherzer deal was so they could get a piece like Acuna. And I think, buying a guy like Castillo on the open market, would probably be the easier way to go rather than trading for him and giving up a piece like Acuna. He's a real asset for that Mets organization. I would not get rid of him. Passon says Alonso to Yankees. Uh-oh, let's see if that happened. John, you saying that's a rumor? Or are you saying that's what he's reporting? Let me update it one more time. I do have him in my alerts as well. Are you saying that's what he's reporting as could be a possibility? Because I don't see it yet anyway, but we'll see. But Acuna to me is the real deal as far as a prospect. I would see the Mets going in free agency for a Manaea or somebody like that to improve their rotation. He does, but you have to give it to the Mets. Mets need pitching, and we have Jet Williams, Beatty, and Marciano who can all play second base. Sure, but to me, Acuna could be better than every single one of them. Honestly, I think Acuna could even be better than all three of them put together. I think he has a real future in the big leagues. I think he's a difference-making, top 50 player when he gets to at his peak in the big leagues. I think he's going to have that level of impact. I think, Bobby Witt is what you look at with Kansas City. I think that's probably his ceiling. I don't think his bat will ever play up quite that much as far as power, but it may. He does have a little bit of pop in that bat, but speed is going to be the name of his game early on, and I think that's going to be a difference-making asset for the Mets because right now you're looking at a team that's going to have a lot of slug on it with Juan Soto. You need some guys to get on base in front of him. I think Acuna could be that type of leadoff hitter that they need at the top of that order as he breaks into the major leagues. I think he'd be a great piece for them. Hayden, my guess rumor, I don't see anything. That's what I was looking at there. Let's see. D-Rod, what teams would take Stroman? Maybe A's. How much money would the Yankees have to trade? I don't think that anybody would really go after a Stroman. Sure, he's a competitive player, a good starting pitcher, but I think the Yankees need Stroman right now in that rotation. They need him for depth more than anything else, and he doesn't have much left on that contract. If you're just trying to offload him to clear money off the books, maybe, but I don't think the Yankees are in a position where they would need to do so. Bregman bat doesn't profile well in Yankee Stadium. I keep hearing that for Yankees people. I mean, at a certain point, I don't give a damn if he doesn't profile well with the Yankees. I mean, you're just, at worst point, you're keeping him away from the Red Sox. But for me, he's still a great bat in that lineup, even if he doesn't necessarily profile as well as, say, a left-handed hitter. I would still like him in there for the clubhouse reasons. I'd still like him in there for the defensive reasons. And it's not like his bat is going to be awful. I think his bat still hasn't reached the pinnacle of what we expect out of him yet. I think he still has a higher ceiling than what he's shown before. And he's the biggest impacts free agents hitter right now on the market that the Yankees could get for literally free. Sure, you have the qualifying offer, whatever. That doesn't matter a hill of beans when you're talking about a player of Bregman's caliber. I would give away 5 picks if I had the ability to sign a guy like Bregman. We're talking about Bregman, who could impact your lineup right now, get you back to the World Series. At least that's what your hope is, to get him back to the World Series, rather than lose him, or the possibility of signing him anyway, and worry about a qualifying offer in 5 years. I mean, the Yankees have never operated with that kind of a mindset. I don't think they're going to start now. Are there other players who probably fit better in Yankee Stadium offensively? Absolutely. I think left-handed hitters primarily work best in Yankee Stadium. It's just the way it works. But the way I'm seeing it out there, they still need bats wherever they can get them. They got a solution out there in center field to move Judge over to right. Absolutely great. And they did even better by having him be flexible to play center or first base and as a left-handed hitter. Now, if you go with Bregman, you've already done it and got the job done bringing in a left-handed hitter in Bellinger. Now it's just about improving your lineup overall. So be it if it's a right-handed hitter or a left-handed hitter. I still like Bregman the player. I like Bregman as far as his leadership that he's going to bring to that clubhouse. Judge is not a vocal leader. He doesn't use his talking. He uses example when he's on the field. And Rizzo, when they lost him last year, they didn't really have a vocal leader in that clubhouse anymore, and it kind of showed. That's why we saw after the season why I had the issue with the Yankees when the news came out that Yankees players hadn't reached out to Soto in a month and a half, even if he had changed his phone number. If you're boys, you're going to figure it out. Soto would have given them their number if he really wanted them to have it. And it's not like the Yankees couldn't have given it to Judge to say, hey, just hang out, have a burger, go do something, drink, go to see a new movie, whatever, catch up on the phone, invite him to vacation in Cabo, whatever. Do something rather than just ignore the guy for a month and a half. Even if you want him to go through the process himself, you can still let him do that all by himself while still being boys with the guy. It tells me you weren't really boys during the season. It tells me while it was a fit for the Yankees as far as on the field, looked great. Defensively, it worked out pretty well for that one season. But they would, Yankees fans and Yankees front office people will still tell you, as good as it looked like they were buddies on the field and off. And then the season's over, and you're like, I guess they're not. And, I still want to hear from Judge as to why he didn't reach out and those kinds of things. Once we get to spring training, I think we'll get a little bit more of an honest answer from him. Even if he just wanted to let him have his free agency period, let him go through it. Hey, man, I understand. I had to go through it myself. I'm going to respect your privacy, let you do your whole thing. Well, then do so. But still, let him know that you actually want him to be on your team at some point. Don't just say, hey, if you come back to the Yankees, great. If you don't, great. I'm good either way, man. Like, which player would you rather, go be on a team with, for the next 15 years? So, just food for thought. Not that I think Aaron Judge did anything horribly wrong. I just think they could have done something better. St. Vintage, Jet Williams is number one prospect in the Met system. I do like Jet Williams, don't get me wrong, but I love Acuna more than I do Jet Williams. Honestly, I think Acuna's future there, sky's the limit. Speed really plays up pretty much across the board, and his numbers are only getting better. I still like Jet Williams quite a bit, though. The both of them being in the same lineup with a team led by Lindor and Soto right now would be money next year once they both get to the big league level. Let's see here. Hayden, if Passan does say Alonso to the Yankees, I would be shocked because I wouldn't be expecting that. It would be a little bit of a shock, not going to lie, because I still think it's the Mets' race to lose there. Let's see here. Lucas, welcome back. Rangers basically said they're done with free agent starters. Do you think there is a good trade to get a 2 or a 3 for the Rangers? I don't think there's necessarily a trade. Now, as far as a signing, I wouldn't rule it out. Rangers have done this before, said they're done with starting pitching, or at least that they're moving on in a different direction, because Chris Young says you can never have enough starting pitching, even if you have 20 of them. And I think he's kind of proven that over the years. If he still sees a way to add another starting pitcher to his group, he's going to do it. The year they won the World Series, look at the way they brought in Eovaldi. It was after they looked like they were done. You look at the trade deadline the same year they won that World Series. You bring in Max Scherzer, you think they're done adding starters? Nope, they bring in Jordan Montgomery and another guy who could be out of the bullpen or start for you and Chris Stratton. And the Rangers just doubled down, tripled down, quadrupled down on starting pitching that year and won a series. So I think, Chris Young sees the success of that, sees the formula there, and realizes he had a team that underperformed last year offensively, that had some significant injuries throughout it, and looked flawed offensively. He realized he needed to upgrade that group. I think he's done a decent job. I think there's still more work that could be done offensively, but rebuilding that rotation was priority number 1. Rebuilding the bullpen was priority number 2, and whatever money was left would take care of the rest of that offense. So I still think Chris Young realizes the value of some starting pitching for Texas. I think they're looking at bullpen more than anything else right now. Mets also got Drew Gilbert in the deal, center fielder who could be up by August. I love Gilbert as well. I think he's a chance to be a really good threat for them going forward. I think McNeil in the long run is going to be, say, 3 years from now, he's probably not going to be the on this team anymore, I don't think. I think they'll have moved on in a different direction, whether it be young guys or in free agency. Greg Harlem, not sure how to pronounce that one anyway, but I'll just call you Greg. Appreciate you joining us. First time I think I've seen you chat anyway. If you're new here, be sure to hit that like and subscribe. How about Bo Bichette to the Yankees to play third base? That's a juicy one. I mean, Yankees do have significant interest in Vlad Guerrero Jr. I would say Bo Bichette would be another player. If they don't sign anybody this offseason, that would be very attractive to them in free agency. Putting him over at third base with Volpe at short would be great. Or just, sliding Volpe over and letting Bichette play short. Both of those options would be great for them. But I think Volpe would be a little bit better defensively. And moving him over to third base might be a little bit better for him long term for Bo Bichette as a defensive option for them. They have all kinds of options though if they did bring him in, but it's still too early to speculate on Bichette to anywhere. For me, Vlad Guerrero Jr. looks like the guy that could really go somewhere else here. Let's see here. Willard, welcome back. By the way, John, it doesn't matter. People in New York, I don't know about that one. New York Yankees are Judge's team, sure. I get the point there that you kind of view Soto as the sidekick, but everybody's going to be seen as the sidekick there. Mark, yeah, I agree with that comment there. Bichette's defense at time at suspects or is at short is suspect. Doubt he'll be a great third baseman. Sure, but I think his defense would be a little bit better at third than it would be at short. Short is a little bit more of a defense premium position. If you could have a little bit more range at third base, would be better. He does play a little bit small for the position, but Bregman's not exactly a big guy over there and somehow manages to do it fairly well. But I think both guys would be a difference-making player for the Yankees if they got either one of them. Who gets more money, Vlad or Tucker? Tucker. First baseman don't usually get paid in free agency. Freeman was the last one to really get paid. Alonso's going to uptick that a little bit this year. I think Vlad's going to do very well in free agency. I think he is going to probably clear 350, maybe clear 400. The more and more we see of Tucker on the market, if he has a good year this year, is healthy, I think we could see a $400 million contract for Tucker right now. $500 million seems a little out of the question though, but I think Tucker gets a little bit more because of the versatility of playing left, center, right. Guerrero can play third a little bit, some first base, obviously a little bit better defender at this point than Alonso, but I think he's going to do very well in free agency either way. McNeil could be gone sooner, possibly. I wouldn't put it past Cohen to move off of the money on McNeil's deal if there's a bigger free agent that they can sign and bring in, or if there's a difference-making trade that they can make and eat the money on McNeil and just get him out of Dodge. Willard, Jason from who covers the Yankees, plus Pete NYU Underground, both called Soto a sidekick when I thought Soto delivered in the playoffs and World Series, and Judge didn't, so maybe he's the sidekick. Judge isn't the sidekick. You have a bad postseason. I mean, you look at Kyle Tucker, just to kind of speak of your Houston Astros, glass houses and everything, Willard, there. Just be careful what you say, because Kyle Tucker has not been anything in the postseason. Now he's been traded to the Cubs. Hopefully the Cubs will perform a little bit better in the postseason, but for the last 2-3 years, once they get to the postseason, Kyle Tucker's a complete no-show. And it's just the way it works sometimes. Sometimes guys rise to the pressure, sometimes they don't. And guys are allowed to get better over time. Who's to say Tucker's not better this year? Who's to say Judge isn't better this year? Who's to say Soto's the same player next year? But all of those players of that caliber are all vast improvements over what the replacement would be for them. For instance, say the Yankees had brought in Kyle Tucker. To me, Soto is still the better player, but it'd still be a step down going to Kyle Tucker. Tucker's still a very good player, but still a step down from Soto. So say the Cubs, they bring in Kyle Tucker, they lose him in free agency next year, they sign somebody underneath that, say Oscar Hernandez signs a 1-year deal, and then he signs with the Cubs if the Tucker ends up leaving. A step down there. The Astros are taking a little bit of a step down here with Tucker bringing in whoever they might bring in, whether it be Santander or Hernandez. There's always levels to this, but at that level, those are very good offensive players. I would say all three of those guys, Judge, Tucker, and Soto, are probably the top 50 players in the game offensively. And, you just hope that it works out better for them going forward in the postseason. I wouldn't give too much, I wouldn't worry too much about past performance once you get to October. You just rather have that guy than not have him in that postseason series at that point. Alex, welcome in. What about Burnes to the Yankees? I don't think that one has any legs out there, but like I said at the beginning of the video, the longer he twists out there, the more and more teams are going to check in on his availability. And one of them could be a surprise and bring him in. Now, I still think the Giants are the favorite. It sounds like the Blue Jays are realizing their window for Burnes has basically passed them by at this point. Not that they're out, but that they're opening up to other opportunities a little bit sooner now because I think they see the writing on the wall. He wants to go pretty much somewhere else. And that somewhere else could be the Giants, could be the Red Sox, could be the Rangers, but it sounds like the Blue Jays don't believe it's them. And so Nick Pivetta is the guy that they have targeted, at least at the moment. I wouldn't be surprised if they tried to get him for a 3-year deal. But welcome in, Alex. If you're new here, hit that like and subscribe. We'll be live for a few more minutes. And then again, we'll be live again tomorrow around 11 a.m. Central. So be sure to hit that like and subscribe. Follow us over on X at UpsideSN and on Facebook, Upside Sports Network. Willard, heard anything about Arenado from the Cardinals or no? I think that one's still waiting on Bregman. Once Bregman moves, then we'll start seeing more rumors about Arenado. I don't think it'll happen before that. Hayden, I think Alonso gets 7 for $230. Ouch. I would not do that deal. I don't care which team it is. Understandably, Cohen has all this money. Maybe he would be the only one who'd be smart enough to do that deal. But I wouldn't give Alonso 7 years. I wouldn't give him over $200 million. I think 6 at 180 is about the peak right now. I thought, before the offseason began, 5 years for 125 was pushing the market for where first basemen are being valued at in the game right now. I thought Freeman's deal for 150, while a very good deal for him, and then Alonso's deal 8 for 160 were incredible deals. But Alonso, to me, is beneath both of those players. He's more of a one-trick pony than either of those guys. Alonso's more of a power-hitting guy, hitting to ground ball double plays, poor defense at first base, or at least average at best. Not exactly a hits for average type player. And I think Vlad Guerrero Jr. is the real apple of everybody's eye when it comes to first baseman, top level contracts, all that kind of a thing. D-Rod, it only takes one postseason series for a player to flip a switch. Absolutely, couldn't agree more there, D-Rod. Lucas, feel bad for the Blue Jays fans. Their owners are willing to spend all the money and yet still can't sign free agents. True, but they're in a little bit of flux right now. They have their two best players on the brink of free agency, and that front office is on wafer thin ice right now. They could all be fired, right after the trade deadline, and then you're, dealing with an entirely different position. So say, you have the best offer by $50 million on the table to a player. If he wants the money, of course he's going to take it. But at a certain point, players have to realize either A, something is going on, why are they overpaying me, compared to these other offers that I have from other clubs. Is it because they're going to go through a rebuild and they want somebody to take the sting out of it a little bit for a period of time? That's a possibility right now with Toronto. That, and they've missed on a couple of their top flight targets over the last couple of years. Judge, Ohtani, now Soto. Now they're in the market for Burnes, and it looks like they're going to be spurned by him. Spurned a little bit strong of a word, but with the money that they're offering, I would imagine for these players, with all the money coming off of their books, I imagine their offers are pretty high, or at least they should be. And I think it's just the instability of the organization is why players are steering clear, at least at the moment. Once we get into that next tier free agent with Santander, Heaney, Manaea, we should see a little bit more activity around the Blue Jays, because I think that's really the market where players like that could sign with Toronto rather than taking a more competitive offer from a competitive team somewhere else. Are the Yankees in on Santander? Good question, John. No, they are not. They aren't really interested in Santander from multiple reports out there. They were interested in Hernandez. I haven't heard anything about their interest after bringing in Bellinger. I'd imagine their interest has cooled since the acquisition of Bellinger, since they're going to play him in center. If they said they were going to play him at first base, I'd expect them to still be in there for Hernandez. But with them announcing essentially that they're going to play him in center field, I would expect them to go after an infielder for a bat in that lineup. But Yankees are not in on Santander. Willard, John, tell me something. Okay, let's tone down the language there, Willard. Let's avoid saying that word in our chat if you don't mind. I get we have strong feelings for our teams, but let's try to be a little bit more cognizant of other fan bases. I'll put it that way. For people who cover MLB, claim Jordan isn't the best, third best home runner hit. Claim he isn't one of the three best home run hitters in MLB. I get the argument you're making there. Jordan is a great player. You want to give your Astros players their due, but let's keep our conversation a little bit more civil. Mark, yes, Lucas, it's kind of painful for us Blue Jays fans currently. I would agree there, Mark. You've been with me for quite a while now, Mark. I think you're going to be in for a rough ride the next few years. Speaking as a Ranger fan, right before we got Seager and Simeon, it was about a really rough 3 years, about as rough as it could get for Rangers fans, and I think you're about to go through your phase of that. I wouldn't wish it on any fan base. I hope they're able to turn around. I mean, it is Toronto. That's the team for that country. They're going to have money to spend. They should be active in free agency, even if they lose their guys in free agency next year. I still would expect them to try to spend at the top levels of free agency and bring in somebody. Somebody's going to take their money. I just worry about them spending the money and then being stuck in mediocrity for years and years and years. Best thing for them would be to just bottom out, get high draft picks, draft, develop, do the Mark Elias thing, or what I think it's Mark Elias anyway for the Orioles, and just build up that way. Once you get your prospects to the major league level, then do what Elias has not done and spend money and keep that team around. But I just worry you're about to go through a really tough stretch of years here, Mark, and I feel for you. Hayden, yeah, I agree, but since I believe Boras is his agent and he can get anything done, Boras can do pretty much anything. After a year of having his name dragged through the mud, he's certainly rebounded from that, getting most of his guys signed before winter meetings, or at least more guys than we've ever seen him really get signed before the winter meetings get done. And then of course the 15-year, $765 million deal. Just Boras really has rebounded well this offseason. Let's see, Mark. Yes, Jays need a better farm system. That they do. A lot of their farm system is aged out. A lot that's left hasn't really produced. And I think they need an organizational reset. I think this is their last stab with the group of players that they have to stay competitive. If they do, say they re-sign Vladdy, or re-sign Bichette, bring in, a big-time bat like Tucker or Bregman, or, maybe a Burnes this offseason as far as a pitcher. maybe they kind of keep this thing afloat and kind of stay competitive in the wild card, stay in it for the division. I don't think they're ever going to be a favorite for the World Series with this iteration of the team, but they could surprise us and do something like that. But if they don't, it could get rough. Welcome in Woo-wee, I guess is what we would call it. Mr. Upside, do you think the Angels should trade their second overall pick next year if they can get something for it now? I don't think you can actually trade that pick, unfortunately. That's one thing I'd like to see baseball really try to take advantage of, how other sports have made trades a possibility. After you get out of that first round, you can get into compensation picks and you can trade those picks, but I don't believe you can trade the number one pick or the number two pick or anything like that. That's something I think the Major League Baseball should consider. Maybe don't let them trade the picks round 3 through however many rounds you want to have later on. They keep changing the number of rounds over the last 10, 15, 20 years. One year it's 5 because of COVID, another year it's 20, another year it's like 30, another year it's like 24, 22, something like that. But they keep fluctuating that round system. But one way to kind of generate interest at the top of the draft on draft night would be to allow for trades to happen with picks. The pick wouldn't necessarily be the interesting part of it. It would be the fact that you're trading a pick for, say, a top level player like Luis Castillo could be traded for a play or could be traded for a pick, or Cody Bellinger or Kyle Tucker. Those trades would be very interesting for baseball and kind of give them a new market to tap into. Another way for them to appeal to another fan base is to relate them to their draft in ways that NFL fans relate to their draft, or NBA fans relate to their draft night. I love the way they've done it as far as including it on All-Star Weekend. They've really done a nice job of using that platform to elevate the draft profile, moving it to the draft city, or moving it to the All-Star city. Really love that. I think they just need to continue to stay innovative in positive ways. Now, the golden at-bat thing, no thank you. I'm not interested at the moment anyway. I haven't heard a convincing argument for why it's even necessary. I think if you have your lineup, you're set 1 through 9, that's how baseball is. And I don't just want to say, well, that's how it was in 1900. It's just, there's no real reason why we should have a golden at-bat rule. There's no reason, say you have, like Dan Patrick said, he's gotten a little crotchety in the last couple of years, but, great reporter, great sports commentator and whatnot, but for me, he's gotten a little old man on his front porch kind of leaning in the last couple of years. But one of his takes that he did have that I agree with is that this golden at-bat rule, say you're in the 9th inning, you worked, the whole game to get to a winning position. You somehow managed to get the bases loaded. There's 2 outs in the 9th inning. You're set to face the 9th place hitter. Usually you have to face either a pinch hitter coming off the bench or that 9th place hitter. That's the strategy there. And sure, there'd be different strategy if you had a golden at-bat coming up. But there's no reason why I could conceive the team's best hitter being able to come up and say, hup, 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 now's the time you get to face my best hitter in this situation. I don't think that's ever something we should be discussing in baseball. I just don't see a place for it. You work all game long to get to that point, and then it'd be like, hey, by the way, I know you're down by 10 points in this basketball game, but hit this free throw and you get 9 points. There's no way that should be in Major League Baseball. There's no, hey, this round is double or nothing. This isn't a game show. And I think sometimes people get away from that. Now, the one thing I think the reason why this was all brought up by Manfred was to generate interest in baseball in the offseason. I think that's part of the reason that Dan Patrick really missed why this argument was even being made by Manfred, why it was being brought up at the owners' meetings and so forth, was to generate interest in the game. But it wasn't necessarily for the right reasons. I think the contract of Soto was enough to keep fan bases interested, and that there's so many free agents that are still out there. Interest in Kyle Tucker, Dodgers being great, Yankees getting to the World Series, one of the most watched World Series that you've had in years. Yankees and Dodgers, the 2 pinnacle franchises right now in the sport that you really want if you're Major League Baseball to be facing off in the World Series. Major League Baseball could not have scripted getting 2 teams that they want to the World Series better than they did last year. I just don't think it was needed to go the golden at-bat route. Maybe once you get to January and you're just waiting for spring training to start and all the guys have already signed, then bring it up. But I think it was just poorly timed. But I think the main reason why they did it was to keep eyes on baseball, and I don't think they needed to do so. I think they should have really focused on the success of the greatest contract in professional sports history and let that carry the argument rather than short circuit it with the golden at bat stuff. Woo-wee. I feel like they should make a rule like basketball where you can sub players in and out whoever you'd like. Now, as far as like subbing players in and out if they're not already in the lineup, I could see a little bit more of like that. We see substitutions all the time in other sports, but they have to be out of the lineup. So, for instance, you take a guy out in the fourth inning because he's your pitcher, but you want him to pitch to say the eighth inning, something like that. I'm not saying I'm for it, but I'd at least hear the argument for it. Just, willy-nilly saying this guy should come up even though he's already set to be in the lineup, in 3 more hitters. But because it's the 9th inning and there's 2 outs, he might not get to bat, so I want to bump him up here to now, even when he's already, quote-unquote, in the game because he's in the lineup. I'm not for something like that. But line changes in hockey, substitutions in football all the time. The NBA, of course, you have substitutions all the time. I could see a time where teams might utilize that a little bit, or where a argument could be made that substitutions of something like that would be interesting. But I still haven't heard an argument that makes sense yet for even that. So golden at bats way even beyond that for me. No thanks. For both players, for both pitchers and hitters, or like during defense, they already have defensive substitutions. They already have the DH right now, where you have your best hitter not even play the field. It's not like the NBA just says, hey, LeBron, you're the best player for the Lakers. Take it easy. We'll let you be the offensive cog on the Lakers right now, but we'll let somebody else come in for the defensive side of things. It's not like the Mavs can take out Luka on the defensive side of the floor, let him be the the offensive piece for them and just come in and substitute willy-nilly. I wouldn't be for something like that, but baseball already does a good job with defensive substitutions late in games. So you like European footy? Nah, I'm not really a soccer fan, or I guess you would call it a football fan if you're from Europe anyway. But the 4 major sports I follow, hockey probably being my favorite sport to watch. If you've never been to a hockey game, I invite you to sit. You don't have to sit up against the glass. My favorite seat that I've ever gotten was actually second row behind the glass. Phenomenal. You actually get the cool air blowing by as the players rush past. It's really insane when you get down there as far as how the game feels. And the in-arena entertainment during the game is great as well. The light shows that they put on, the video board is great. Hockey is probably the best experience in-game. Then I'd probably go with my second favorite sport probably being a tie between basketball and baseball. And then distant fourth would be football. But that's kind of how my sports following goes. I like watching soccer from time to time. I like watching golf a little bit from time to time, but mainly just for the Masters. NASCAR occasionally, but not since Jeff Gordon really. Tennis a little bit, but I'm an old school tennis guy, Pete Sampras type of guy. Let's see here, Lucas. Would it be nice if Kidd didn't have to play Luka on defense? That would be nice, but he's gotten better defensively. But he exhausts himself on the offensive end, which is why I think he kind of conserves his energy on defense, and it really shows on him more than any other player in the league. Sub-Zero, welcome back. Christian Walker and Alex Bregman going to sign next. I would say Bregman more likely to sign first out of those 2. And I think having the Yankees get the deal done for Bellinger should start to move the needle for Bregman. I think the Phillies are going to have to make their decision quickly as to whether or not they're going to really shake up this roster or not. I thought all along that the Phillies would have shaken up their roster by now. I thought they would have done it during the winter meetings so that they could get involved in some of these free agents. But if they're not going to, shake up their roster and they're just going to make some additions to the bullpen, this doesn't sound like Dave Dombrowski that we all grew up with. We're talking about a group of, we're talking about the Phillies, Dave Dombrowski that likes to push the pedal to the metal all the time. And he really hasn't done so yet this offseason. They've got a great team. I'm not saying they should bust it up, but I'm saying a shakeup might be necessary. Wow, a super chat. Thank you. Appreciate that. Your Blue Jays making me depressed. I know you got a couple other Blue Jays fans in here with you. They are, very depressing at the moment, but they could shape it up any moment now. They could make a Nick Pivetta signing. I think that'd be a salvaging signing for them. I don't think it saves them this offseason. They still have more work to do. But I think Bregman is really where the market is on the offensive side of things. Where do I think he signs, Alex? I do think he's going to sign sometime this week. If I still had to guess, my favorites are still the Tigers, Red Sox, and Blue Jays. Those are the three teams in there. Yankees, I think, are going to start entering the chat more now that with Bellinger done. If he doesn't go to the Yankees, I think he goes to the Red Sox, honestly. I think they have their window to contend is opening, whereas Toronto's is closing. I think his best fit might be in Toronto, both short and long term. Being able to play short, long term if Bichette leaves, I think that works out great for the Blue Jays. But if I'm Bregman, I probably sign with the Red Sox. I think they're going to be a team that could really contend with some of the beasts in the AL East. You look at the Orioles; they aren't investing in that starting rotation. You look at the Yankees; they're a really good team, but they have some really good young talent coming with the Red Sox that might be better than what the Yankees are going to have. And the Yankees are going to have a bloated payroll. How much more salary are they going to be able to add after you sign with them, Alex Bregman? That's another question I would have to have answered for me as well. So for me, I still think the Red Sox could be the team for him, but you can never count out the Tigers. With the connection with Hinch, that would make a lot of sense there as well. But thank you for the super chat there, VPCZX. Really appreciate you joining us. And if you're new here, be sure to hit that like and subscribe. I know we gained quite a few subscribers over the last week and a half now. I think we're over 160 new subscribers alone in the last week and a half. Really do appreciate that. It's been a lot of fun covering the winter meetings and baseball with you guys. We'll have 2 lives for you guys again tomorrow. We'll get back to that format as well. Let's see here. Sub-Zero, you're an OKC fan and they lost to the Bucks in the NBA Cup. I still think they are top 5 in the West. I think they are. This is going to be contrary to popular, belief out there anyway. But I don't like the signing of Hartenstein. I thought they needed more, 6'8" to 6'10", 6'8" to 6'11" guys rather than Hartenstein. I thought they needed more Jalen Williams type players on that roster because they're all like 6'6", 6'5", 6'4" guys on that roster. And then you get Jay Will and Chet and then Hartenstein. I think they need to get a little bit bigger at the wing positions, not at the center spot. They still needed a center, but I would have spent it on the wing positions. If you're ever wondering for basketball purposes, where should you spend your money? Wings. Wings and more wings. Let's see here. VPCZX, probably San Francisco. You're thinking Bregman goes to San Francisco? I don't think so. They've got Chapman there. They've got Adames there. Maybe he goes and plays, second base or first base. I don't think so, though. But they're looking more at starting pitching right now. And then in the offseason next year, that's when I think they're going to go into free agency once again and go after guys like Vlad Guerrero Jr., Kyle Tucker, players like that as well. Lucas, top 5 brothers, no way. They're not the number 1 seed. I think OKC could be knocked off of that number 1 seed. I think they're probably top 3 to 5. I just worry about their size, catching up with them. And just like every team is 1 injury away, they really are that 1 injury away to SGA. I mean, they're so small. And I like the signing of Hartenstein, but there were so many other options they could have gone with. They're the 1 seed in the West. Yes, but again, I still like the other teams in the West more than I do OKC because, again, size. Let's see. Lucas, I've been an NBA fan, or been to an American NBA game. Football is still 1-1. NBA 2. F1 3. I also went to see the Vikings game in London. Didn't like that. Don't like London in general, though. Okay. Vikings were my second favorite team, and still are my second favorite team, but they were my number 1 when I was very small. So I always have a soft spot in my heart for the Vikings. Alrighty, we'll go ahead and just check in on Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it, one more time, see if anything else is happening at the moment. Had a lot of fun chatting with you guys. I love how you guys, when I first log in and start up my live, and I'm still sharing the live out there on my, X profile and on Facebook and so forth. I'm still trying to get that information out there to let you guys know that I am live. Some of you guys get the notification from YouTube and join in already and are already saying hi to me and so forth. I really appreciate how you guys have really built this community up in my chat and how we kind of get to enjoy this kind of conversation. It's been a lot of fun, and I was just looking at my chat while I'm sitting there trying to send out these messages and so forth, letting people know that I'm live and so forth, and just seeing y'all greet each other and just having fun. Just every night y'all coming in and having fun in our chat. It's been a lot of fun, and getting some good fan base, and y'all making some friends out there. It's it's been a lot of fun having this become this type of a platform. So appreciate you guys joining us. And like I said, we've gained over 160 in the last week and a half. We're over 1,800 now. I think we're probably going to close at over 2,000 by the end of the year if we keep this rate up. And, that would be a great year. This is our third year doing it. We just had our third 3-year anniversary anyway. So that was fun. Big milestone for us here at the Upside. And, we do have one moderator right now. And, maybe we'll add one more. One of you guys who's in here every single day. I think a couple of you guys have an idea of who I'm thinking about might make a moderator at some point, but since you guys are in the chat every night. But I really do appreciate the support, and 3 years is nothing to sneeze at. It's had its ups and downs, tough parts. We started out making long content videos, trying to do animations and lists, and it didn't really work out. The views weren't really there. You'd make more money off of it, sure, but I wasn't making money at the time because I had no viewers. Now I've got viewers and so forth, and this is the content y'all have really responded to. And we built a really nice community out of it. And so we're going to keep doing this on and on and on, and just have some fun with you guys every single night, discuss the MLB in the offseason, love going over the trade deadline stuff for all 4 major sports as well. It's been a lot of fun. Welcome in Anthony. OKC way too good not to finish number 1 seed. Don't think they can beat the Mavs in the playoffs if PJ is fit for the series. True. I think PJ Washington is a big key for that series, but I think the Mavs, say they get Herb Jones, that's the dream piece right now for the Mavericks right now. If they get Herb Jones, I'm telling you right now, they could compete with any team, and there's a legitimate offer that the Mavs could put on the table if the Pelicans decide to trade him for whatever pieces they could get. I think the Mavs could give him 2 legitimate pieces as far as trade. Could be something to see there. Anthony, when is the last time you can remember a team trading a player after a major surgery like Tommy John? I keep hearing Sandy Alcantara to monitor him at the trade deadline. Maybe at the deadline, but you'd have to show he's healthy first. Alcantara is too big of a piece to not get maximum value back, and no team is going to give back maximum value right now because he hasn't pitched in recent memory. So he's going to have to demonstrate he's healthy. Now, Jesus Luzardo is in a different situation. He's not exactly your number 1. You just get what you can get from the Cubs right now and just make it work. You have plenty of pieces to still trade at the deadline out of that rotation, but you don't want to be getting caught like what the Marlins did this year, where your entire trade pieces are all injured at the trade deadline aside from Scott, and so they don't really get much. They don't capitalize on a poor season because those guys weren't healthy. So Alcantara, I don't think, is going to be traded anywhere anytime soon. Let's see here. Sub-Zero, OKC defense number 1 in deflections and steals, 2 in fast break points. I'm not saying they're not a good team. I'm not saying they don't have really good defense. I just think once it gets to postseason basketball, you're talking about a team you're talking about positions where they're very skilled that are always played off the court once we get to playoff basketball. Guards never translate well to postseason basketball. And so that's my worry, is that they're too small. Chet is really their only answer outside of Jalen Williams, and Williams came up a little bit lacking last year, and he could be better. I think he will be better, but they just need more guys with size. Maybe they're the team that gets Herb Jones. Then I'd change my opinions on them, but for me, they're still small. They need more wings. Wings, and impact wings. I encourage you to do that old style stuff, videos from time to time, perhaps long content form, history of baseball or something, things you enjoy, memorable, etc. I would like to do that again. I don't have the software anymore for it, but the software I was using is free now, so I could go back to doing something like that. Maybe put up some, I did a couple of videos in the summer this year, I think, about the greatest tight ends in the league, ranking the greatest tight ends in history, stuff like that. Where did Gronk and Kelsey and Witten and Antonio Gates and Tony Gonzalez all rank, etc. I did something like that, but something like that could be in the mix. That'd be nice. Paul, welcome in. Did I miss the Burnes portion? You did a little bit. We'll go ahead and recap it for you. Just kind of a recap of where we were yesterday, really, is where we're at today, is that the longer this thing plays out for Corbin Burnes, the less and less likely it's looking like the Giants are the team that's going to get him. Now, I still think the Giants are the favorite. I'd still put them over 60%. But right now, the longer this goes into free agency, it sounds like more and more teams could be eyeing a guy like Corbin Burnes. Now, the Blue Jays apparently are seeing the writing on the wall, and that's why it looks like they're at least opening their eyes to Nick Pivetta a little bit more. But Burnes is going to be the next starting pitcher to domino to really come off the board. And the longer this thing takes, the more teams like the Red Sox can rethink their position. The Orioles, the Rangers, the Dodgers, any of these other teams that might be able to take on a starting pitcher are going to rethink their spot on Corbin Burnes because, hey, he's still out there, unsigned. Maybe you can get a good deal. He is a Cy Young caliber pitcher. He'd be a difference maker. You can convince ownership when it's a piece like Corbin Burnes to spend more money. Then you could convince them to go after a guy like Andrew Heaney, for instance. As good as Heaney is, he's not Corbin Burnes. He's not going to flex his budget up for an addition of Andrew Heaney. He might do it for Corbin Burnes, though, and that's where the scary part is, that Burnes taking longer out there, how the Giants might ultimately lose him. Now, I'm not saying that the Giants are going to lose him at this point. Still looks like a deal is going to get done at some point. But the longer this thing takes, the less likely it's going to happen for the Giants. Yes, Paul, no news on Burnes, sadly. Not really, unfortunately. Just the general speculation, Ken Rosenthal was saying this yesterday and today, is that essentially the longer this takes, the more time, or the more likely it's that he goes somewhere else. Lucas Herb Jones is a dream. They'll want to haul like 4 first-round picks. Mavs can offer 2 in a swap. That's not enough for Herb. I don't think it is, but at least it's a decent offer to put on the table. Omax isn't really a great value. You got Hardy, but I don't think they can even trade him. But maybe you throw in a Gafford and that 25 first. That 25 first is more valuable because this year's draft is going to be loaded, and so they might want that as many 25 first as they can get. You get that 25 first, you get your center in Gafford. Maybe the Mavs move around and trade another piece to bring in a Larry Nance anyway from the Hawks to be their backup center at that point. You know, there is iterations where Herb Jones could end up in Dallas. That wouldn't surprise me. That wouldn't cost 4 first-round picks, but that they would be a part of a 3-team deal, or even just a 2-team swap where they give up Gafford and the first-round picks, or Quentin Grimes, or any combination thereof. They do have pieces that could get it done, though. Let's try to catch up on some of these comments here. Do you think the Lakers have any shot at actually making a game-changing trade? Give me a % chance. Game-changing trade for me would be bench, bringing up getting rid of D'Lo's contract, getting in some decent, rotation players for that team. Maybe getting rid of Gabe Vincent. I think he's a nice piece, but I think they could improve there as well. I would have thought they'd been in there for Dennis Schroeder. He goes to the Golden State Warriors. % chance that they make a decent trade, a game-changing trade, probably about 40%. Do I think it's going to push them over the top? I don't. Welcome back, Musica. Do the Reds have any chance at getting Teoscar? I wouldn't put it at 0, but they're looking at rotation, it looks like, primarily. VPC ZX, I wonder what the Marlins are going to do. I would expect them to trade one of their starters. Jesus Luzardo looks to go out, and then probably bring in a couple of veteran relievers and see if they can catch lightning in a bottle and trade them at the deadline. Their plan is to do what they did last year and try to lose and trade away their impact starting pitchers once they're healthy. That's their plan next year. Doesn't sound great as an organization, but it's what they got to do. I think they'll try to rehab their, top-end pitchers like Alcantara throughout the year and then trade him after the season. What team do you think is going to trade for Jimmy Butler? The Phoenix Suns. I just think that one's written in stone at this point. Maybe the Warriors, but those are the only two teams I think it's going to happen for. But I would say Bradley Beal, maybe a 3-team deal where he goes somewhere else. But even a 1-for-1 trade with maybe some second-round picks going back the other way is what would have to happen. And with the way trades are going to have to be structured right now with this first and second apron rules, I think that really is a great fit. Lucas, Sub-Zero, I think we got enough to beat any team in the NBA in a playoff series except for the Celtics. The Celtics just don't have a weakness. We might have just found the weakness, by the way, though, Lucas. Just let Drew Holiday shoot. At least that's what Memphis did, and it worked. And I wonder if teams start developing that and forcing him to shoot 20 times a game. Not that he can't hit those shots, but that you're counting on the other guys being able to hit them at a better clip, whereas Drew Holiday might not. And so that's what the Grizzlies did to beat him. I wouldn't be surprised if teams started to try to deploy that strategy more and more. Butler to Golden State is what I think. I still think Phoenix, though. Golden State would be my number 2 pick for them. Will the Yankees sign anyone this week? I still expect them to add one more significant bat to that lineup, whether it be a Bregman, an Alonso, a Walker. I would say it's probably one of those 3. Maybe they go out there and on the trade market once again. But for me, I think they're looking free agency at this point. I think Bregman is probably their next top target they're going to try to figure out if they can get something done for. But the Yankees have been very active. I've been impressed with the way they've rebounded after losing Juan Soto. They've done a really great job. Are you surprised no one has called Miami for Braxton Garrett with how well he performed last year? I'm sure all teams are checking in on all players at all times. I wouldn't necessarily say nobody's called Miami for him, but there are other players in free agency that you can get right now for free. While Miami's trying to build for the long term, so you don't necessarily want to give up your long term pieces when you can fill the hole that Garrett would fill for you right on the roster right now in free agency. You agree with that? SGA has been consistent every game, just need an elite second scorer. SGA has been consistent since he's come into the league. He is Mr. 30-point-a-game guy. He is Mr. 50% shooting from the field and gets to his spot and hits his shot. I really like his player, or his game anyway, but it doesn't really flex up for big competition. It doesn't really flex down for big competition. He's always the steady, right around 30 points. Really consistent of a player, but they need a second scorer there. We'll see which direction they go. I think more size, though, would help them more than anything else. OKC has the most first-round picks in the next 5 years, so they could trade for a star. I think they will trade for a star at some point. 25 first is going to be like 26 at best. 26 swap will also be bad. Only thing they have of value is a 31 first. That 25 first is better than that 26 swap or the unprotected 31 first. I mean, that 25 first, even at 26, is still going to be a better piece, more than likely, than what they're going to get for that 31 first. Say they're at 26. You're still going to get a decent NBA player in the 25 draft. I'm not saying you're going to get a star player at 26. I'm going to say that you're going to get a player that you would expect to be in the rotation at that spot. And so for a team like the New Orleans Pelicans, that rotation player, if he plays really well, could flex up. And that's why the 25 pick, because of how deep this class is more valuable this year. Not that 31 pick is not valuable, because it is so far out in the future. Who knows what that draft class is going to look like? Who knows if Luka's going to be on the team, what the team even looks like. But that 25 first has a lot more value than, say, the 24 first would have been, for instance. Or the 20 with Wembanyama, that draft I think was an outlier, or even the 22 draft. Those are things to consider with that 25 pick. All right, let's kind of wrap up our baseball discussion here. What they needed was a Dennis Schroeder type off the bench. J-Dub is a good option. J-Dub is a consistent option, but is a good option, but he's inconsistent, thus the point guard. I think that the OKC Thunder will add another ball distributor. They have Caruso there, but Giddey was kind of their second point guard with SGA. With him gone, they're needing to kind of change things up. But we'll see. Butler to Phoenix, highly unlucky. Phoenix has no first, and why would Miami make the horrible trade? Bradley Beal contract? Because, I mean, you're losing, Butler for probably nothing in free agency if he doesn't opt into the deal. It's old man Butler at this point. What can you get? Getting Bell back into a premium position, or Beal back into a premium position, might flex up his value again. Might be able to recapture a little bit of what he was in Washington. Being a third banana on that team in Phoenix has not worked out, and they're not going to be able to. I don't think they're going to recoup a first-round pick and Beal. I think you're going to be able to get a bunch of second-round picks or other contracts that you might like off of that roster, but I don't think you're going to get both. Not that Phoenix has first anyway to give up. Golden State, meanwhile, has the first to give up, but then you're taking the contract of Wiggins, and I'd rather have Beal than Wiggins, even though the contract is less. All right, let's kind of wrap up our baseball discussion before we wrap up for the evening. We'll get into some basketball discussions as we get closer to the deadline, but I do appreciate having some NBA talk in our baseball chat. It's kind of nice having our community talk about different sports. See, we can talk about all kinds of things. Let's see here. If Yankees get Carlos Santana and Bregman, I'll be okay with that. Well, Santana would be a great option for them. Cheap, low-cost option at first base. They spend the money for Bregman. I would love that. I mean, if Bregman is the only piece you really bring in and then just a filler as far as a platoon guy at first base with Rice, I would love that exchange there for the Yankees. They bring in Bellinger, you bring in Bregman, you brought in Fried and now Williams. Say they bring in another eighth-inning guy, that's a really good offseason for the Yankees, even in an offseason where you lose probably your second-best player on your roster in Juan Soto. All right, Brad Beal's contract is worse than losing Butler as a free agent. Beal has a no-trade max contract. I agree, it looks ugly. I just think he's a better player than what he's shown in Phoenix. I just don't think Phoenix is what he was expected to do. Tyus Jones coming in as the point guard has kind of solidified that group, but he's still the third banana, and now he's not even the ball handler, which means you're counting on him to be, what, the Mikal Bridges of that team? Ugh. I just think Beal would be better in a situation where he's the guy that's counted on to get the basket. Right now they give that ball to Butler or to Booker and Durant before they give it to Beal. Beal is a good option right now in Phoenix, but I think they would have been better going out and acquiring more useful pieces around those two, Durant and Durant and Booker. But I think Beal getting into Miami would be better for them long term. They get a little younger. Not that Beal is any type of spring chicken, but he's a little bit better at this point, in my opinion, than the way Jimmy Butler looks. I think everybody inflates Jimmy Butler's value a little bit. The defense, the tenacity, the dog that's in him really gets played up a little bit there. And I think he'd be a really great piece on that Phoenix team. But I'm not sure how much is really left in the tank for him. I'm not sure how much talent, how much skill, how much availability, how much scoring, how much defense is left in that tank after this year. That's why I say Beal for the long term for Miami, as ugly as that contract looks, he might be able to carry that offense for them without Jimmy Butler. So I think it might be an upgrade for them offensively over what Butler is giving them currently. But I agree, it's an ugly contract, one of the worst in the sport right now, but that Butler contract is almost equally untradeable, even as an expiring deal, especially when you consider the teams that could possibly bring him in. I just don't see why Miami don't take Golden State offer. Wiggins is good, and they get Kuminga in a first, potential picks anyway. I don't think Golden State would include Kuminga in that deal for a Jimmy Butler, so I don't agree with that one. All right, let's go ahead and wrap up our discussion here. As far as baseball is concerned today, we'll get back into some more baseball free agent discussions tomorrow. Hopefully we have some news on Burnes and Bregman. We get the deal today for Bellinger, one that we've been talking about pretty much ad nauseum since the end of the winter meetings. We finally get that deal. He goes to the New York Yankees in exchange for Poteet. Gets $5 million sent from the Cubs as well. That was really the sticking issue for the last 3 or 4 days now between the two teams. Cubs blinked a little. The Yankees, got them to chip in $5 million, basically as a token of, hey, this is why we waited so long to get $5 million off. What a savings. Why did we wait this long for $5 million in savings? That's a lot of money to me. That's not a lot of money to the Yankees. So why did we wait all this time? Anyway, this weekend was absolutely dead as far as transactions. Hopefully we get a little bit more transactions this week now that the seal has kind of been broken on free agency with Sugano anyway going to the Orioles yesterday. We get the trade of Bellinger today. I'm hoping we start to see the dam break a little bit as teams have broken away from the winter meetings, have a good idea of where free agents and where their team really stands, and now can go out there and identify which players they really want to bring in and get those deals done. Relievers should, in theory, get done soon. Anyway, but we'll see what happens there. Heel, when will you do Rangers watch-alongs? I will do a whole bunch of videos next year as well. We did a whole bunch of play-by-play in our year 2 that y'all really responded to. We had some great times watching baseball games together. Now, of course, we don't have it on our stream, but we'll have our same chat going along while y'all follow along during the game. And, we had a lot of fun doing that during year 2 of our lives. And we'll go back to some of that next year. MLB TV will be a package I purchased, so make sure I get the game so we can watch it, any market, any game, and be able to enjoy it with you guys. Dodger Boy, almost missed your question there. Where do you think Tanner Scott is going to go? I still think it's going to be one of the Dodgers or Yankees. If I had to guess, I think the Dodgers are the favorite for him because he's still in free agency. Their top target was Devin Williams. He's now off the market. I would expect Tanner Scott as their next option. I would expect them to bring him in. Now, if they don't, I still think there's some possibility that he goes to a team other than the Dodgers or Yankees. I think the Rangers are still in there for him. I think the Tigers are looking for a closer. They've been connected to Kirby Yates as well. Phillies could do something like this in their bullpen. Red Sox have been connected to him as well. Mets could use an 8th inning setup guy. Tanner Scott would be kind of a premium at that spot, but it's the Mets. Cohen, he has money to throw around and spend wherever he wants to spend it, but I still think the Dodgers, if I had to pick a team right now, if you're pinning me to a team, I would probably say the Dodgers. Lucas, even if they don't include Comedia, there's enough younger players. Pods has looked terrible this year. Trace Jackson Davis, okay. Better than Beal and nothing else. If you get Pods, sure, you can hope and pray on that one, but I already know I get a better player in Beal. Sure, it's the bad contract that you're getting with it, but I still think both of those two offers are very comparable for me. I don't think either one of them is pushing the team over the top. Say Phoenix gets Butler. Are they immediately favorites in the West? No. If the Golden State Warriors include, say they don't include Kuminga and get the deal done for Pods and whatever else. Are they the favorite in the West? No. I still think OKC is better than them. I still think Dallas is better, as well as a couple other teams. But I think they would improve. I'm just not sure how big of an improvement Butler is at this point in his career, or how healthy he is going to be towards the end of the year. I just think he's old man Butler at this point. Lucas, Bellinger deal will move Bregman, or move the Bregman thing along. I agree. I think that's really kind of helped free up the market a little bit here, because the Yankees have been involved in trade talks for the last week, for the last 4 or 5 days, and the market was really waiting on how they were going to respond on the offensive side of things to losing Juan Soto. Because they lose Juan Soto, they're probably going to have to bring in 2 impact bats. One of them was hoping to be Kyle Tucker. That didn't happen. The other was hoping to bring in Cody Bellinger. They get that one done. They tell him he's going to play center field. Now they can go out there and address their first base or third base situations in free agency, and that's why I think we're going to get Bregman's deal done relatively soon, hopefully by the end of the week. So, again, the 3 teams that are considered favorites for him still are still in the market for him anyway: Tigers, Red Sox, and Blue Jays. Yankees, I think, are still in that discussions now as well, after they've turned their attention now to him. I think the Phillies are still in there if they move off of Bohm. We've seen the Mariners be connected to him, the Cubs as well. And then the surprise there is the Sacramento A's, I guess is what you'd call them, have interest in him as well. But we'll see what happens there. Third base is a position of need right now. Arenado would probably move after Bregman gets done, but that one might take a little bit more time. But I would look for Bregman and Burnes to be really the next dominoes to really fall in free agency. Heel, knowing how the market is, watch Bregman get 8 for 300. That's a little rich. I'm not going to say that the market isn't going bananas right now, but look at the deal that Xander Bogaerts got. I think it was, 10 or 11 years or whatever it was with the Padres for $280 something. Bregman, to me, is a very comparable player, hitting the same similar time frame of free agency. I think Bogaerts was a better on-base player. I think both guys had really good pedigrees coming into free agency. Bregman, I think, is still going to do very well in free agency, but you saw how many years that had to go to get to that value. 8 for 300 is just a little high. All right, we'll go ahead and head out here. We'll be back again live tomorrow around 11 o'clock Central Time. Be sure to join us then. We'll update you guys on the Burnes market, check in on some of the other top free agents around the league as well, and then check in on some of the trade chatter. So be sure to join us 11 o'clock tomorrow morning Central Time, and enjoy us during your lunch. We'll have fun, talk a little bit about some trade possibilities. Hopefully we have some news on an update for you guys on Burnes and Bregman. I appreciate you guys joining us. Lucas, it's 6 a.m. here. I'm about to get ready for college now. All right. Well, thank you for taking the time to join us, Lucas. I really do appreciate it. I know a lot of you guys, it's 11 o'clock Central Time right now. Getting late here in Texas, but appreciate you guys joining us. Y'all have a great one, and thank you guys for hitting that like and subscribe. If you guys are new here, we have a great community. You guys can check out our chat. Scroll all the way up and just see how friendly our fan base has really grown, and embraces each other here. It's been really nice to see. Gained 160 of y'all over the last week and a half just with our coverage of the winter meetings, and we only continue to grow, hoping to hit over 2,000 by the end of the year. Help us reach our goal there. Welcome in, Cowboys Nation. If Corbin goes to Toronto, I'll be sick. I wouldn't be surprised if the Angels try to figure out something to accommodate him. He's not going to the Angels. I think he'd go to the Giants if he goes to the West Coast. As for Toronto, I'd be surprised if he goes there at this point, because it sounds like they're pivoting to Nick Pivetta. All right. But thank you guys for joining us tonight. We'll see you guys again tomorrow around 11 Central. Y'all have a good one.